What's going on, guys? If you are new to real estate and trying to get in and don't know where to start, you should definitely check out the text platform. Here's the number right here. As a matter of fact, this podcast, we have two rock stars that are now in there doing deals. So we got some advanced strategies from beginner stuff, something for everybody. Check it out. AKA Captain Perfect, AKA El Judío Maravilloso, AKA El Chulo de las Casas. Here on another podcast, we've got a virtual podcast popping off with three people from the text platform. If you're not on the text platform, you're crazy. It's free. You can hit me up anytime. I answer questions every day. A lot of people doing deals as a result, a lot of collaboration, a lot of things happening. It's really cool to be able to give back, get in, work with different people, get to expand the network, both me and yourself and you with other people on the platform. We're actually going to be starting in 30 days or less, putting out unique content to people in the text platform, period. So we're going to be coming up with all kinds of different high-level lessons, insider real estate tips that are going to be going out just through the text platform to people, and that's it. So right there's the number. It's absolutely free. Join today. All right, so we got three people. One of them is uploading Chrome. EJ, my man, he's going to be popping in a minute. But right now we have Enrique and we have Brian. Let's bring him in. Brian, Enrique. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the podcast. I appreciate you guys taking the time out.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So EJ is the last one. He's downloading Chrome. He just emailed me, so he'll be in a minute. But so this is the way I see it. Obviously, I want to get a brief intro from each of you guys. But what I figured we would do is kind of like a round robin, where you guys can ask me, any type of questions you want, real estate related, and we'll basically just chop it up over the next 30 minutes or so, and we'll have a good time. So everybody kind of give the 30-second to 60-second overview of who you are, what you do, what your investment goals are, or just goals in general, social media platforms, whatever you want to share about who you are. Brian, the lead off.
All right, man. Like I said, once again, thank you for having me here. Brian, I'm based in Queens, New York. My background is in involved a little bit in real estate. I do a lot of wholesale deals.
Nice.
Queens, and in the boroughs. I got involved with real estate through a personal matter when my parents were facing foreclosure. And we were trying to find stuff like that, and that's how I got into it. Because I tried to learn what was the deal with foreclosures and stuff, and I got inspired when I heard that you took a crash course in foreclosures, and that's kind of what I did. I interned in a legal office,
nice,
and learned everything about foreclosures from there. And I've been negotiating deals here and there, but still learning. And it's always a learning experience, man. But I'm glad to be here.
I love it, man. Absolutely. Thank you for being here. Enrique, that's a fly name, bro. Enrique is just
Thanks. In high school, people couldn't say my name. So a lot of people used to call me Enrico, Enrique. So I just went with E.
Where did you grow up?
Valley Stream. So my story is a little bit different. I was born in Brooklyn. My parents
How's everybody doing?
Got homesick.
What's up, Edwin? Give us a second. We're doing the intros. We'll get to you in 2 seconds. All right. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, no
Jump
problem.
in,
So I was born in Brooklyn. My parents, got homesick. We flew back to Peru. I came back here when I was around 13 years old. I did the whole high school. So technically, I grew up in Valley Stream my whole life. So I'm a Long Island boy.
A Long Island boy.
Yeah. So I pretty much I got into the retail banking right after high school. I been kind of real estate. A lot of the clients that walk into the bank, they've done a lot of real estate. So I've always been very curious. I bought real estate myself at a very early age. So the first property that I bought in Freeport, I actually lost because I was about 19, 20 years old. And the reason why I lost it was because I got hit with one of those mortgages, ninja loans that, the loan triple or double after 2 years. So very similar to what Brian was saying. My family and I, we kind of faced, we didn't do a foreclosure, but we did a short sale.
Yep.
So I actually kind of thought it was kind of cool. So little by little, back then it's not like it is now, right? You just click and you get all the information. You come into people like yourself. So all you gotta do is pretty much just stay tuned for like a 3-minute video. But thank God I was very privileged that did not allow that to stop us, and I just kept moving. A few years later, I bought a property in Valley Stream, and I just kept on going since I'm very fortunate to have a great job. So I've always been lucky enough to deal with clients and real estate agents and wholesalers. So I own multiple properties.
Nice. What do you do in banking?
I'm a branch manager.
Got it.
So it's
Good
more
for
on
you,
the
man.
retail side. But
Cool.
anyway, so to make a long story short, I just kept on buying properties, and thank God, done well. But I've been very curious about those wholesale deals, especially in this market. I know it's a very dry. It's not many houses right now, so I guess you just have to keep on going and keep networking.
Yeah, no, and we'll talk about that because it's kind of like a lot of people think there's no houses, but there's a lot of houses, bro. Like I'm buying a ton of stuff, like a ton of stuff. All right, so let's kick it off. So Brian, let's kick it off with the first question. What do you got, my man?
I just wanted to like ask you. I know that you obviously hold, and you renovate all these properties. You have like an all-in-one team. I want to know how you coping up with with like all these moratoriums and holds that were placed like on the rentals and on like on foreclosures in general. A lot of like I saw like a little bit of a decrease in like short sales and stuff like that because the banks like they kind of couldn't do nothing to an extent, because the moratoriums.
So all right, so I'll kind of approach that from a bunch of different angles. First, as far as my rental portfolio went, I didn't really have a problem because 85% of my rental portfolio is Section 8 or some form of government subsidized tenant. So the government's paying me through this entire thing, never skipped a beat. If tenants lose their job, there was ERAP, there was all kinds of things for them. I mean, tenants on their portion may have fell behind in certain cases, but not many. If so, they're going to get caught up at some point, or they're going to either get bailed out by the CDC or Section 8 or ERAP. So I did very well with that. Nothing too crazy. On the other side, I didn't have to evict any tenants during COVID. On the flip side, as far as like, foreclosures, buying properties, etc., I did buy a bunch of properties that had people in them, but I got them at a deal where I'm like, listen, I'm gonna have to hold this thing for a year or 2 years. I'm doing my numbers accordingly, and either I'm getting these things really cheap or I'm not gonna do it. On the flip side, what also ended up happening, which really helped me out, is obviously the market exploded. So in addition, even if it took a little bit more time, you had 15, 20%, 30% increases in pricing. So whatever my carrying costs were over that, let's say 6 month to 2 year period while I was getting these people out, the appreciation really helped me there. So I got lucky. So I actually just, there's 3 houses I have left with people in them. I just got warrants in Suffolk County for 2 of them. So those people are about to get evicted. And there's 1 more in Nassau County, and those people are going to get evicted too in probably by like summer. So just as long as you buy right, you're good. And when you buy these houses with in those situations, you have to anticipate you're going to hold a house for a year or whatever it is, and you got to back it out. On the acquisition side, definitely less short sales, yes, because people were like, I don't have to go anywhere. They can't throw me out. So the foreclosures that were happening were more of the houses that didn't have people in them. So, but those were still going on, but less. And then REOs, like, I don't buy REOs. Not that I wouldn't buy REOs, but REOs are typically very overpriced. Just to give you an idea, I bought 78 houses last year, and none of them were listed on the market at all. So, if you really want to get the good deals are off market.
Gotcha.
Enrique, you're up.
That is awesome.
Yeah, so
for answering my questions.
Oh yeah, of course, man. We're gonna keep it going.
So I've been actually watching a lot of your YouTube videos, so I've been networking, or at least I've tried to network as much as I can. So I got an off-market deal today, which actually is going to be being sent to me today. It's a 2-family, but my question to you is,
Yep.
Mainly I know you said it's network, but as far as the numbers, because now it's going to get to the point where like this deal that I'm trying to do is more on the hard money lending side.
Okay.
So I've done my homework about it. I think the numbers will make sense as long as the ARV comes out to be decent. But what's the percentage where you feel like, oh, that's a slam dunk for me?
So when you say the numbers make sense, it makes sense from the standpoint of a buy and hold, or it makes sense from the standpoint of a fix and flip?
Well, I'm more of a buy and hold kind of guy.
Okay.
So I guess I just want to know both angles. Like, how do you know from buy and hold perspective it makes sense, and the flipping side as well?
Okay. So, my model for rental properties is I typically do rentals in typically lower end areas, basically where the prices to acquire are low and the taxes are lower. Like I have a ton of rentals in Mastic Beach, Shirley, Bellport, Patchogue, East Patchogue, CI, Brentwood, etc. So, multifamily buildings all over the place also. I typically go to those areas because I do a lot of government tenants. So the government is going to pay the same amount for a 3-bedroom, regardless of if you're in, East Hampton or if you're in Bellport. But I'm buying houses in Bellport for $50,000 or $60,000, and the taxes are $3,000 a year. So let me say this: everyone's idea of a good investment is different. Everyone's return on investment, what they think is good, is different. Some people are happy with 5%. Some people want, 50%, whatever it is, whatever you are. So it's directly related, obviously, to your skill set, the risk you're going to take on, and how much involvement you have, in the actual project. So when it comes to rentals, I only do value add type of deals. So that means I'm coming into a distressed situation where I'm buying it at a discount, 50, 60, 70% of what it's going to be worth at the end. And then I'm putting in the work, evicting people, renovating, repositioning, changing zonings, putting different kind of tenants in there, and then going to the bank at a much higher evaluation later. That's my business model. So with that said, I'm looking to make a minimum of 12% cash on cash return and create a minimum of like 25% equity in the deal through the buying and renovating process, or I don't want the deal. For me, it doesn't make sense because my goal is to get out all, if not most, of any of the money I'm putting in to move on to the next one. On the flip side, for me, if you're flipping, I have a machine that I need to feed. So when you're doing 70, 80, 100, 110 houses a year, if it makes sense and it makes some money, just stick it in the machine, right? Because we have full-time construction employees and permit people and everything that we just have to keep cranking this thing out. So it really depends. Plus, I'm not intimately involved in the renovation process or anything. I bring the deal in, I source the funds, it comes in, my team runs with it from there. So it really depends. It's really up to you. At the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, I have X amount of available money. What are the options that I have out there to invest in? Right. And does the return make sense? It may not make sense to be getting a 5% return on your money when you have to deal with tenants and nonsense if you don't really have any equity in the deal, when you could lend the money passively, not be involved with anything, and make 10, 12, 15% on your money. You know what I'm saying? So it's a risk versus reward and what other options do you have in your market or in other markets that you can invest in? I don't invest in the stock market and I don't invest in crypto or any of that stuff. Not that any of that stuff is bad, but when someone's like, hey, you can make 30% on your money in this stock, I'm like, bro, I can make way more than 30% on my money flipping houses or renting houses, and it's something that I'm comfortable with. For me to invest in the stock market, it would have to be something that I could 10x my money or at least 5x my money, or I wouldn't get involved. So that's what you have to think. I mean, do you want to share, some of the parameters of the deal, and we can talk about it for a minute?
Well, I haven't got the deal yet, but what I did buy in the summer was a property in Valley Stream. I got it for $380.
Okay.
So it was a short sale. So I went in. On the cash. I did put down 10%, and
okay.
The hard money lending company gave me 100% of the construction costs.
Did you turn it into a rental or you flipped it?
No, I actually, because I do also own the house next door.
Okay.
So I rented my house, which has a lower mortgage payment. So I rented that out. So I'm doing okay there, and I moved next door. So I pretty much sold it to myself at the end.
Okay. No, I got it.
I kept the property for myself.
I have a video out there where I break down all the costs and everything associated with doing a rental. So a lot of times when people don't know this, and I didn't really know this intimately until I went to NYU and got my master's in real estate and really like dug into this stuff. But when you're subtracting a vacancy rate, a management fee, all the things that you should, a lot of times people think like, oh yeah, I'm making 8%, I'm making 10%, I'm making 12%, but they're not. They're making like 2%, 3%, whatever it is. So for me, I like a blend of, I want increased equity and I also want cash flow. Some people prefer one over the other. I like a blend. I think you need at least 20 to 30% equity that you created, and you need some cash flow, a minimum of double digits or at least high single digits if it's in a really solid area, because you need the cushion. So I just, really analyze these deals to see if they're really, really making as much sense as you think they are. Brian, you're up.
That's great. I want to know like what is your experience, or like what is your opinion like on Airbnb and doing like short-term rentals and stuff like that.
So I'm sorry, keep going.
As in opposed to like Section 8, because I know most of your portfolio is focused on Section 8 and public housing, I believe, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a question that's been coming up like a real lot lately. And I'm not an expert in Airbnb by any means, so, take this for what it's worth. I personally don't love Airbnb. First of all, Airbnb is not legal everywhere. So that's the first thing. People are getting away with it. It hasn't been challenged, but it's not legal. So that's the first thing. Like tomorrow, that's always my thing. Like I'm a very conservative investor. If tomorrow the government decides that Airbnbs are not legal and you have a house that if it's not renting for what an Airbnb is, you're really in trouble, then people are going to blow up. So that's one. Two, I don't have a problem with Airbnb providing that it works as a regular rental. So if you tell me, hey, listen, I have a house in Bellport that will rent, a 3-bedroom house in Bellport that'll rent for $2,350 a month through a Section 8 program, but with Airbnb, I can make $8,000 a month. I'm going to be like, bro, go do the Airbnb thing. Because if Airbnb disappears, you still have the worst case scenario of, fair market government rent to fall back on. So, but I have guys like, I had a guy call me the other day and he pitched me on an Airbnb deal to partner with him or fund part of the deal. He was buying a property for $1 million upstate in Vermont in like an exclusive area right by the mountain. He's like, it's top of the market rent. It's a place that like, there's nothing else like this. It's only really seasonal around ski time. He's like, but we're going to crush it and we're going to make like $200,000 a year in gross rent. And I'm like, bro, this is so risky and he's basing the price of it off of a cap rate that didn't make sense, off of income that really can't be proven out. So that's where I think people start to get into trouble, where they go and they buy, like I was talking to another guy at this, I went and spoke at the in New York City Real Estate Expo. And he's like, I have this property in the Bronx that I rent, that I used to live in, and I made $20,000 this month. I'm like, all right, but what would it rent for normally if it wasn't Airbnb? He's like, $4,000. I said, do you make money? He goes, no, I lose a lot of money at $4,000. So that's what I'm talking about. And so the guy's like, this is so great, 20 grand. He's going to go out and start buying these things at scale to try and get 20 grand a month. But what happens if Airbnb, like, I don't know what's going to go on, down in Congress or whatever, but hotel operators are pissed because they're losing a lot of money. So it's very possible that at one point in time, Airbnb becomes illegal or it becomes regulated or whatever it is. And then what? So that's my only reservations on Airbnb, but there's a lot of guys that make money with Airbnb. So I just feel like it's getting a little bit of a bubble. And it's like, every time you climb onto YouTube and there's a pre-roll YouTube video of like, you can do Airbnb and you can rent a property from somebody else and make $1 billion. Like, we're fucked. Enrique, what do you got?
I just wanted to pick your brain on what do you think on deals out of state, and most importantly, it's do you believe hiring a property management is the right thing to do? Because I've kind of heard both ends. Right? I have one end is that it's good, it's necessary, and then I get the other one that they say that they don't take care of the properties as good as they should, and then you may get yourself into a situation where it's not in your favor.
So you're talking about property management for out-of-state properties, right?
Yeah, correct. Yes.
Okay.
Have you ever done any of that?
So I don't invest out of state. Not that I wouldn't. I will. I just have a model that allows me to scale locally, and I can buy a lot of stuff here. So, and I own a property management company to service my properties here. So investing out of state is a great thing. New York is not the easiest and cheapest place to invest. So a lot of people go into tertiary markets within a 4-hour range of, PA and Rochester and Syracuse and Poughkeepsie and stuff like that. College rentals are a really big thing also. So I just think it's very important that when you go into these out-of-state markets that you do it the right way. So you really have to go and do your due diligence. You have to say, what are the market drivers here? For example, what are the industries? Is it like Albany? Albany is a great tertiary market that is very stable and isn't impacted at all really by recessions. But you never get appreciation because of that. So you'll get your same 10% return forever. But that's because there's schools there, there's government, there's medical, so there's always jobs. So you have to say, what's the master plan? Where are the jobs coming from? And then you have to say, what's the supply? What's the demand? What are the influx and outflux of people in the area? Why are they coming in or why are they leaving? Is there new housing stock coming on the market? What's the vacancy rate? What's the absorption rate for new rentals? You have to understand the dynamics of the market. Then you have to build the right team. So you have to have the attorney that's familiar. You have to have the local lender. You have to have the right management company. My personal opinion is I would not try to self-manage in Ohio if I was in New York. Now, all property management companies are not considered equal at all. You're going to probably deal with some shitty ones until you find the right ones. But there's enough online resources to work through that and find somebody. It's better to pay the right amount of money to have the right person go out there and maintain the properties the way you want them to be maintained, and just make sure that you're underwriting the deals according to their fee structure. Like if you can get a property manager for 5% and they don't do shit for you, but you can get a property manager for 12% and they're amazing, just make sure that you're underwriting your deals with a 12% management fee, because you know that they're going to be maintained properly. Everything's going to be on it. They're going to go and do quarterly inspections. All your financials are going to be up to date, all that. But it's just a process to meet the right people. But I definitely would use management out of state. And if you want to go out of state, I would definitely do it. But just spend the time getting to know the market and building the proper team in that area.
Sounds good.
Brian, what do you got?
Awesome. I want to know, what is your opinion in regards to, the Fed tapering rates and stuff like that? Maybe a hike in, mortgage rates. And how do you think this would affect the market in general, the value of the properties? Or do you see maybe a slight slowdown in pricing on the homes?
So my overall feeling about the market over the next, let's say 3 to 5 years is this. So they are going to increase rates. Rates are going to drastically increase over the next 5 years. They have to. They'd have to do something to control the inflation that at last I checked was 6.8% when it's usually somewhere between 2 to 3%. Too much money in the system. It's going to have to happen. We've been in a low interest rate environment for 20 years. Markets are, markets change and everything has a life expectancy. So I think we're going back there. What I think is going to happen is it's not going to be, let's say, like a crash per se. Enrique knows he's in banking. People don't really buy a house that's a dollar amount. They buy a payment. So it's whatever you can afford. The thing is, if you're making $100,000 a year and you can, at 3.5%, afford a $400,000 house, then if you're making the same $100,000 and interest rates go from 3.5% to 8%, you're buying a $300,000 house. So ultimately what it will do over time is it will slow down and then ultimately kind of try to, stop, but probably reverse, because the government always goes overboard. They never do it right. They never cut it right there. The prices of real estate, which they have to, I think, because I'm selling houses for numbers that just don't even make sense. And if it continues to happen, it's like you're going to be spending $1 million on a house, on a bungalow in Mastic. So my opinion as far as the time frame goes is I think that this is going to be a very good year. I think if you're a real estate investor, you should be positioned to really take advantage of the market next year, because as far as foreclosures and the moratorium and short sales, I think people are still in la-la land. I still think that they think, oh, I'm not getting thrown out. Oh, it's moratorium time. Oh, nobody gives a shit. No, like people are now getting thrown out. And as soon as that becomes news and people realize like, oh shit, the party's over, it's going to start to accelerate. So you should look for that to accelerate, let's say the second half of this year. And if you're in the position to take advantage of that, let's say second half of this year, next year, and the following year, you can really make a lot of money. But I think the market will be good this year, next year, most of the third year, probably second half starting to like taper off as rates start to rise, and get north of 5 and whatnot. And I do think that you see 8+% interest rates in, a 5 or 6 year period from now. There will always be money to be made. And at the speed that the rates rise and how quickly you flip houses, it's very manageable from a risk standpoint. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity. The market's not like taking a shit or anything crazy. It's not like a 2008 scenario.
Wow, that is amazing. 8%. That is a big call right there.
Well, it's like you got to think about it like this. So I bought a co-op at 27 years old in 2007, like right before the crash. And my interest rate was 6.75%. And that was a normal rate.
Gotcha.
People are just spoiled because for like 15 years, the rates have been like 3%. But this shit's not normal.
These are low rates. These are like all-time low rates. Basically.
Yeah. I don't think we'll see rates like that for a very, very, very long time again, if ever.
That is awesome. No, I completely agree with the fact that, the moratorium is over. A lot of the houses are going to come to the market. And I mean, I guess the takeaway from here would be, take advantage of like any properties that come in with the current rates, take advantage of the rates as well. If the deal makes sense, obviously.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's a correction every 5 to 10 years, and it's always the same thing. There's a different cause, but the result is always the same. Money tightens. It's not easy to get money. There's a recovery. Certain people lose money with things, but the people that are well capitalized and not over leveraged are always in a position to take advantage of that, like we did when COVID hit. So, Enrique, what do you got?
It's just more like a follow-up question with you. You're saying that you're selling properties at a high number, which I agree, because when I got this property that I bought appraised, and I grew up in Valsham, I can't believe the prices that this property is being appraised, even yet sold for. Just as a follow-up question with that, do you feel the property prices in the next 2 years are going to stay at the same number? Maybe they're going to drop a little. And just a follow-up question with that, if you were just an average investor on a small scale, would you concentrate more on regular buy and holds, or will you concentrate more on Section 8 and government programs?
So a couple of different things. I mean, I think prices are going to continue to rise for now because prices are only going to start to drop when there's two things that are going on right now. You have you have a shortage of supply,
right?
You have a massive demand, and you have very low rates. So what needs to happen is you need to get more inventory, and this is like historically the least amount of inventory we've like ever had in a very long time. So you need to start foreclosing on these people or whatever it is to get these properties out into circulation, which is going to take time because the government's not in a position to just start cranking these things out. They're not. So that's one. And then two, rates have to rise to the point where they're cutting people's buying power. And so it's kind of like a little bit of both. So it's really going to take some time. It's going to take at least a few years to try to get enough product out on the market and raise the rates enough where it limits people's buying power, where you're adjusting, where the supply and demand is starting to shift. Right now you have properties with like an absorption rate of 30 days, like 2 months, stuff like that. You're in a hardcore seller's market where a buyer's market, it shifts from a seller's to a buyer's market at 6 months of inventory or absorption of 6 months. You're familiar with what that means?
No.
All right. So the absorption rate is this. Like if you go into and you say, what is the absorption rate in Nassau County today? And let's say it's 2.5 months. What that means is if another property wasn't listed from this point on at the speed in which houses are selling, in 2.5 months, there would be no more houses for sale. That's what that means. So like after the crash, you had an absorption rate of like a year and a half. right now you have 2 months. So you have like 2-3 months worth of inventory in most places, sometimes less. So until that number starts to creep up and hit that 6-month mark, when you have 6 months of available inventory, you have a completely balanced market. When you have 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, you're in a buyer's market. Now buyers are in a better position than sellers. You follow me? So we have a long way to go between rates and then more inventory coming on the market or things sitting longer because people can't afford them. It's going to take years to get to that point. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity to make money in the interim. The key is to like pull back before it goes to shit, to be in a position where you have the liquidity where you could take advantage of a downturn. You know, like for example, in 2019, I didn't buy a lot of properties because I knew, like, I felt like something was happening. So in the beginning of 2018, I told all my friends, I'm like, bro, the party's over. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, the party's over. I feel it. I feel like a shift. I'm like, I think last quarter of 2019, we're going to have some kind of an economic situation. So they thought I was an asshole. Now, ultimately, I didn't predict COVID because I didn't know that some crazy virus was going to sweep the globe. But Q1, like a few months later, Q1 of 2020, COVID hit and there was a recession. GDP dropped to historic lows. Businesses were really fucked up. I was in a position where I had a lot of money on hand and I had a big investor base of people that were ready to rock. And I bought 17 houses in the first month. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, you have to put yourself in a position where you feel the market and you know, like, all right, it's going to turn, or I don't like the way things are going. Just like, don't get emotional with your investing. Your investing has to be a very numbers, dollars and cents, rational thing. Either it hits your target or it doesn't. And like, my CFO, Mark, and I would talk about this all the time. I'm like, hey, if you want to buy 10 houses in a 10-year period, it doesn't matter when you buy them. Like, if the market is shitty for 4 years and then the 5th year, the market's fire and you go buy 5 houses in 1 year, you're still going to achieve your goal, but you're going to buy it the right way. Don't ever feel that you have to be constantly buying. There's a lot of guys and girls that lose money because they get caught up in, I have to buy all the time.
Makes sense.
Brian.
Awesome. My question is, during COVID and stuff, I know that you made tons of purchases. I just want to know if, maybe you could share a little bit, like, where like did this funnel come from?
Sure.
Did it come from like your network, or like where did it come from? Like,
so when you're doing the volume of houses, when you're doing 70, 80, 100, 110, 200 houses a year, you have to basically do everything. What I will tell you is, when I started my career, I didn't have a lot of money, so I invested that in my network, in the sense that I went out 2 or 3 times a week. I met people, and then I used social media as a way of continuing those relationships and connecting. Now I do a lot of advertising of all different kinds: TV, radio, social media, paid, etc. And we're going to do more. But at the end of the year, if I quantify where my deals are coming from, I would say 75% of my deals are coming via some type of relationship or the network that I have. I might have used marketing in order to cultivate those relationships, but you need relationships in order to do it. So I'm blessed to know attorneys, wholesalers, hundreds, if not thousands of real estate agents, fellow investors like yourself. So they call me, just my social media presence. I get probably 3 to 6 DMs a day. You like this deal? You like this deal? You like this deal? You like this deal? From people I don't even know.
Awesome. No, that's I think that's the path that makes things work. The network
Yeah.
around.
You basically you have to be out there all the time, because it's very simple, right? Like, everybody spends their time here.
Yep.
And someone's going to have an opportunity. If they don't see you on this, when that opportunity presents itself, they're going to think of somebody else. So the fact that I am posting on every platform 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 times a day means that whenever someone gets an opportunity and they're like, who am I going to sell this to? They go to their phone. All of a sudden I'm there. They're like, oh, that's the guy. So that's why, social media is so important, and building those relationships is so important. Enrique, let's wrap it up with one more question. I got to do another one of these after, but I want to get your final question before we sign off, Enrique.
Sure, no problem. you obviously are doing heavy volumes, but on the buying and holding, what would be your territory ideal in Nassau and Suffolk County to do all these government programs that you're referring about?
Wherever you can get the cheapest houses, and typically like I just bought, I probably just bought like I think 12 houses in Bellport. You know, I'm buying houses in Bellport for between, I mean, now they're a little bit more expensive, but like I was
Right.
buying these things in packages for like 40, 50, 60,000,
I
renting them,
know.
renovating them, renting them for 2,300, and then the taxes on the house is like $3,000, $2,500. You know, Mastic has it. I've done a lot of like multi-family type deals in Patchogue. I own like 40 units in Patchogue. You know, anywhere really where you can get a house cheap enough where that makes sense for a program. It's hard to do programs in Nassau County, man. It's just way too expensive. Now, as a tip, the CDC does have an enhanced kind of version. So what the CDC is trying to do is they're trying to get some of their voucher holders into better schools. So they'll actually pay. They have a program where they'll pay like 20% more to the landlord if you're in a better school district than their typical FMR rates. And they even have like these programs where they'll give you a grant for like $5,000 if you do renovations. So depending on what you purchase the property for and what you're looking to do, there are situations where a CDC might work for you. But in general, you have it work better in the lower income areas with cheaper houses.
Got it. Perfect. All right.
Yeah. So listen, I hope you guys got something out of this. Obviously, you have my email info, you have the text number info. If you're out there listening to this and you haven't signed up for the text platform, it's scrolling down there the entire time. You should definitely do it. And listen, I'm always here for you guys. I appreciate you taking the time out, and I hope you guys found this helpful and you can go out and be empowered by the info and do stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Awesome being here with you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for your time, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you
Enrique.
for the opportunity.
Always.
Charles, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys.